Hello everyone, I'm Rasmus Borsch. I look after solutions for education in Europe, Middle East, Africa for Lenovo. And I'm here today with Mark Yorke from Tablet Academy to discuss professional development for teachers and leaders. And I'm especially interested in understanding what does it really look like today, since the fact is that most people have devices in their homes, and I could even think about whether this is necessary or not. But I would like you, Mark, if you could say a few words about yourself, introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Mark Yorke. I'm the CEO for TA Education, or what is known as Tablet Academy. Our organisation employs teachers to support schools and colleges, universities, to make a better outcome when it comes to using technology to educate students. So we work with school leaderships to design a digital strategy. We work with teachers to train them in how to use the technology. And we even work with students to still deliver STEM programs for partners such as Lenovo.
But Mark, why is it still necessary to do professional development? I mean, we've been doing technology in schools for 30, 40 years? Everyone has a device at home. What is it you do, and why is it necessary still?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Everyone kind of thought if you introduced technology into the classroom that everything would improve, that things would change for the better. But the reality is just introducing the technology alone doesn't change anything. Essentially, it's the end users, it's the educators and the students. They are the people that are needing to acquire new skills to make the benefits obvious when you introduce the technology. So I've worked in over 1,000 schools in different ways, and over the last 10 years, I can still walk into a classroom and it feels the same. Even though they might have some devices in the classroom, the pedagogy hasn't changed. So for me, PD is as important as ever, especially with things like AI entering the market, and some teachers are really quite afraid of what that means to the classroom.
Still, really?
Yeah.
I guess that's also why we as Lenovo, I think everyone knows Lenovo for doing black laptops with red funny buttons in the middle of the keyboard.
Yeah, it was one of the questions I had for you actually.
Yeah.
Why are Lenovo entering this EdTech consultancy space?
Yeah, so the funny thing about Lenovo is that everybody knows us as the world's biggest PC maker, the world's biggest PC brand, but we're much more than that. So some years back, Lenovo decided to go on a journey of moving away from just producing boxes and to really think about solutions. And one of the verticals we look really hard into is education. Given the fact that we saw what happened during COVID, where so many schools procured devices and had such a difficult time making sense of it, you might say, we have decided to move into a space where we support the full life cycle of a device, which means from the moment we think about designing the device till it reaches the user, what happens when you use it, and also what happens when you give it back. We think about that whole journey, and we think about it in the context of school. And so PD for us is an essential part of it. But Lenovo doesn't have that expertise in any scalable way itself, so we decided to partner up with you because it's something that requires, from what we're seeing, local knowledge. So local teachers should be meeting teachers from the same country, speaking the same language, understanding the teaching culture of that country, and the same with leaders. And that's why we went on the partnership with you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have our network of franchises, so we have companies based in countries across EMEA that employ local educators to work with their local schools. So they understand their culture, they understand the pressures within those schools and the requirements. And that's why the relationship works really well, because we can work with the Lenovo local teams with our local educators and support the schools as a rounded offering.
But Mark, could you tell me, and I'm sure that people seeing this will be interested in knowing, what does really good PD look like? Because I've seen myself working in the EdTech industry and being a teacher before that, thousands of hours of PD being done with absolutely no effect. So what difference does Tablet Academy make, and what does it look like?
So we very much focus on the end user and the experience they have. So when we run training, it is always hands-on workshops, so they get first-hand experience in using the technology. So we'll very often run a session where the teacher will play the role of a student, so they see how a student experiences it, and then we'll switch, so they become the teacher and maybe our trainer becomes the student and responds to their actions. We feel that hands-on experience is very important. But equally, one of the things that we've seen over the last 10 years is very often schools, leaders will invest in some new technology and they'll say, okay, you'll have one training day. So we're going to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on the technology and you're going to have 1 hour training session and then you're expected just to run with it. Now we know that doesn't work. You need constant, continued CPD. You need to constantly be supporting staff to adapt the changes that come along, such as AI. And that's really important. So PD isn't about that one-off experience. It's about setting foundations, identifying the skills that teachers need, maybe doing things like a skills review to assess where they currently are, then creating a PD plan, then executing that over a period of time. And throughout the whole journey, those teachers need people they can go to access further support. It's not about the one training day anymore, it's about that ongoing journey.
So that sounds like a lot, actually. So from a time perspective and a budget perspective, so how does this unfold in real life? I mean, what you just told me is the theory behind it. Does anybody do this in real life?
Yeah, definitely. We are noticing since the pandemic that a lot of educators and schools have identified the value of technology, and they are now reassessing their strategies and building a digital strategy from scratch in some cases. And they're looking at how is this going to work long term? Are we going to look at one-to-one devices where every student has a device they can use in class and at home? And there's some great research happening around the benefits of that. So when we work with those schools or those groups of schools looking at that strategy and we talk about a PD plan, typically we start by assessing where the teachers are at with a skills review. That gives you the data to then inform a professional development plan. And then the plan will break down into several different actions. Now, some of those actions are supported by people like ourselves, going in as external trainers, but equally we try to apply a digital champions type model where we will have some teachers nominate themselves or get selected in their departments, and they get some extra training from ourselves, so they become the digital champion for their department, and then they can support the rest of the staff that they work with on a daily basis. So we build programs which may have this kind of impact day at the start that's setting the expectations and setting the foundations they need to understand. But beyond that then, there are more focused training sessions which start to drill down more on specific subjects. So if you're a maths teacher, once you've got your foundation skills in, the next thing you want to know is how do I apply this in my subject? So a maths teacher training another maths teacher makes a lot more sense. So then you have that specialist training sessions happening regular, but also some kind of network where if a teacher's struggling, that they're trying to find the answer to a problem, they know who to reach out to. And that's really important, that ongoing support, which is almost forgotten a lot. When the investment's made at the start, so people make the investment to the trainer at the start, and then the support and the professional development just fades away, and it's trying to think of ways to keep that constant drip feed of new skills going into the staff.
Yeah, makes total sense. It seems to me like you're also not separating professional development with technology from what you call normal professional development, right?
Yeah, it's showing how the technology is going to enhance what they do on a day-to-day basis anyway. So if they work as school admin or if they work as a teacher or as a school leader, the tasks that they do on a day-to-day basis, the technology should really just be supporting that, maybe streamlining the process, automating some parts, using AI as an assistant, etc. But we're not asking them to do any additional work. We're trying to get them to understand how the technology supports their day-to-day work, and then they start to see the benefits, and that makes a massive difference. You take an example of in a class where a teacher might go to a photocopier and photocopy worksheets and then hand them out. The amount of time that takes and resources, and you're thinking about climate change and things like that. If you use something like OneNote in the classroom, you can distribute a worksheet with two clicks of a button. You can differentiate the learning a lot easier because you've got all the options there in front of you. And now you're getting more time to spend with the students and individualising that learning for each student. So it makes a massive difference. And yes, there's a pain barrier to go through, but there are some benefits and rewards if you go through that.
But now that AI has come about and it's a big thing this year, don't you think all of this need will go away?
Well, no, even when you look at AI, it's always about having a human in the centre. You can't just trust what AI produces in a generative way that's going to be correct. Someone's always got to check it. It's always got to be applied. If you're talking about students, if you're going to use AI to set an assignment, AI might generate it, but the teacher's then got to check, does that make sense to my students? Is that where my students currently are at? Because AI doesn't know your students, it needs that human interaction. And I do think that humans are always going to be the center of AI. It's just the case that they'll use AI as a tool to save time and be more productive.
Yeah. So if I were sitting out there looking at us today,
Yeah.
and I wanted to either reset what I was doing or start a completely new project,
Yeah.
how do I do it? What's the first step?
So, I mean, obviously they can reach out to their local Lenovo people, and we can start some support. And one of the things we would always say at the start is think about your vision, where you want to be in 1 year, 2 year, 5 years. But the thing we always remind the schools we work with about is understand why. Why are you reaching out to Lenovo to ask for support around professional development? So if you don't know why, then actually you're never going to get an effective plan. And typically the reason why is you want to introduce students to digital skills, you want to improve their outcomes, you want to improve the work-life balance for your staff. Understanding those reasons why is the key. And when you do, then Lenovo team and ourselves can support you to build that strategy and help you reach those end goals, that vision that you set out at the beginning.
So what you're saying is don't reach out unless you understand why.
Yeah, and if you don't know how to understand the
Yeah.
why, then you can still reach out and we'll help you with that.
Okay, thanks for that, Mark. I think that's a great way to wrap up. And I just want to announce that so we finish up the conversation with Mark now, and this is sort of the overall conversation on why are we doing PD, what should it look like, and tomorrow at a different time we'll have a conversation with Phil Burney, also from Tablet Academy. He's the government affairs lead. He's also working with leadership around the world on designing the strategy and understanding the why. So I think that's a great way to wrap up. Thank you for viewing, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Lenovo.